Hello, everyone. Thank you for
Hi.
joining. Welcome to day 12, our final, not the last for sure, but our final of our 12-week course, giving you guys the best creative photo tips you can use anytime, anywhere, with any kind of camera. Who's excited? This is the final day. This is the best tip, right, Alicia?
Yes, I
This tip
agree.
This tip definitely, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to jump on here. This tip is the kind of tip that makes you go, oh, that's what photography is all about, right? Like, it's not just one thing, right? That's why we've saved this best
Never.
tip for last. So what we're going to do today, guys, is now that we have Alicia back, she safely got home from her wonderful trip down here with us.
Right.
How was your flight home?
Um, Interesting. There was a man with a it looked like he was in a blue suit, like the blue man
Like the
type
Blue
suit.
Man Group.
And he pulled it all the way up to like here, and then he had glasses, not like sunglasses on, with a hat, so I couldn't see anything. And he just sat there the whole trip, and I was dying laughing. I couldn't stop. I was like, "Oh, is this what life has come to?" But hey, to each their own, and
I know, you're right. You're
everything's
absolutely right.
relative.
Um, well, I'm glad you got home safe and sound. We missed you on Wednesday. We had a
I
wonderful.
know I missed everybody too.
That's all right. You know me. I think I kept everybody talking for almost an hour on that one.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome.
we did combine three different tips. So what we're going to do today, everyone, and I'm so glad to see so many familiar faces who have been, or names, who have been with us since the beginning here, but also some news, which is great. So what is really special about today's classes, it's not the end of this type of classes. We have some great news for you. We're going to be doing these on a regular basis. We're going to talk about that soon. But today's class is going to be about sharing the final tip with you after we review all of the tips we've already shared. So if you're new today, you're in luck, because we're going to summarize the last 11 tips before we share this 12th tip with you guys, okay? So tip number one, well, before I start the tips and reviewing, what I'd like to do is ask you guys who have been here from the beginning, which tips do you remember the most? So who cares what order they're in? I want you guys who remember these tips, or any tip at all that you've heard from Live Wonderful, share it with us now in the comments. Let us know what are the tips that are really like clicking, literally clicking for you. And Alicia, like, what's one of the one tips that we've shared that you feel like is the one you think about the most or comes to you easily? Which one is it?
Rule of thirds always does. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Also fill your frame.
Yep. Yeah.
I
Those are
think I think the one that I missed yesterday is huge too. Did you do shadows, silhouettes, and reflections? I don't know. Is it just
yeah.
shadows, silhouettes?
Yes, I did. I did.
So combining a lot of techniques is so cool.
Yeah. So
Love it.
symmetry, I love it. Perspective for sure. And we're going to review all of these. Lighting, this is great. So I love that different people remember different things. And that's the great thing about photography, guys. You all who know us well, you know that our mission here at Live Wonderful is to inspire you to bring all of your great stories to life through your camera and literally show you how to see life differently. By combining all of these things that are already in our world, in our experiences, by combining them and really building awareness about ourselves in the world, we're going to become better storytellers no matter what kind of photography you love to get into. So that's the beauty of why Alicia and I have so much enjoyed these. Not only do her and I get to connect all the time, she's in Boston, I'm in Orlando, but we're able to have this as an ongoing conversation. This should feel like a lifelong journey, guys, where you are constantly revealing to yourself a new perspective of the world, a new way to see things. And so as we continue to share these tips with you and review the top ones that we've started with, keep that in mind. These are things that maybe some click right now, and others are going to click later, or one's going to pop into your head that you might have forgotten about, right? So all of these are going to kind of give us these clues about ourselves, as we see which ones we like more, which tips are easy for us to grasp and put into play. So
when you pick up your camera, I mean, every single time, you might not know what you're getting into or any type of these tips, but you're going to practice it and it's going to come to your mind and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what it was. Like,
right.
These are great,
Yeah, exactly.
You're always practicing it.
Sometimes it's in hindsight, right? I mean, we've talked about that a few times. We've looked at some of your shots and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I naturally connected the color with the lines, but I didn't have this intentional focus about it. But that's the beauty too about these Live Wonderful tips, is that these are natural things that we do. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of taking that step back and looking at them in a different light, literally and figuratively, so that we realize this isn't hard, guys. This isn't challenging, right? What's challenging is being in the moment, is being open to seeing things differently, holding still, having patience. All of those things are the challenging things when it comes to creative storytelling.
I think every shoot I have, every time I pick up that camera, like I don't think of these tips or rules. It's just in my head and it happens naturally because you're in the moment. So
yes,
to everyone on here and whoever sees this, don't take these tips and think, oh, I have to do this or I have to do this. Like right. We want you to be in the moment, and you'll see these things happen naturally, and you'll be like, oh, that's symmetry, or oh, that's rule of thirds, or that's color, and so it starts to happen very naturally.
Exactly, that's a great point. So let's what we're going to do first to review the last few tips is I'm going to bring up our awesome ebook, guys. And this is a book you guys have access to now. Actually, let me go ahead and put it in the shared files here on this webinar. So if you go up to the top right corner of your event board, you'll see the word event board. Click on it. And then under that tab, you'll see shared files. So we have just shared with you this ebook that I'm now going to share my screen so that you guys can, I'm going to read through these and review the first 11 with you guys, and then we're going to reveal that 12th tip, okay? So let me do a screen sharing. All right, can everyone see top 10 photo tips for instantly awesome images? Can you guys see that? Alicia, can you see it?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. You field those questions for me, Alicia. Anybody who's got questions, ideas, comments, anything you want to say while I'm chatting. Remember, this is a live webinar, so feel free to step in and say something in the chat box. Alicia will interrupt me and let me know. So this is an ebook that Alicia and I put together over the last year, and it's a great, getting to what Alicia was saying, how these tips come naturally. Think of this digital ebook as a toolbox of great, easy tips that you can just whip out anytime you need just a dose of inspiration, or you feel stuck in the moment, or, maybe you got a shot, but you're like, how can I make this better? So go ahead and make sure you download this ebook and get it onto your phone, right? Get it into a place where it's easy for you to reach out and check out, a great, easy, creative way to get out of your head and see your shots a little differently and get some pop to them. That's really what these tips are about, is like, how do I make my images really pop? So before we get into all of these, which are those main tips, Guys, our mission here specifically Live Wonderful. We always say that life is way too beautiful to have boring photos, and we all love taking photos. Those of you who are here now know that maybe you don't feel creative enough all the time, and we want to prove to you that just isn't true. So our mission is to show you that by harnessing the power of visual storytelling, we want to empower you, communities, and businesses everywhere to capture and share real stories with passion and purpose. So this is about stepping out of that snapshot mindset, guys. This is about really being in the moment and enjoying the moment and seeing how that actually helps you bring your stories to life. So tip number 1 is really our mission, okay? Tip number 1 is about realizing you are creative. And I literally feel like I have this, purpose in life, which is live wonderful and sharing it with the world, because I'm constantly having to remind myself that. And I hope Alicia agrees with me. Like, this is not, this isn't something that just clicks and you're like, I got this, I'm always confident. No. The challenge of creativity is to continually remind ourselves that we are creative people. So that is tip number 1, right? And number 2 kind of goes along with that, which is you have to know your why. So if we can remind ourselves that we're creative, when we go out in the world and start to bring our stories to life with more passion and purpose, that's about having intention, right? That's about knowing what's our why. Why do we want to pick up the camera? Why do we even want to tell this story in the first place? Because having that answer in our minds and our hearts is really what's going to help us know when to click, how to frame that photo, when to use rule of thirds or look for color, or all these tips we're going to share. So tip number 1, remind yourself every day you're creative. And tip number 2, know your why, okay? So when we think about knowing our why, now we can really dive into these photography tips. Number 1 for us is to, 3 you can think of, is to notice with all 5 senses. And actually, I think I'm off on my numbers here. I think this is really number 2, right? This goes with awareness. When you use your sense of sight, and not just sight, but the sounds you hear, the taste you smell, the feeling of wherever you are in the world, maybe it's the wind on your cheeks. When you start to use all 5 senses, you are literally putting your entire reality into the moment, and you're experiencing exactly what's happening to you right now. That's what builds your awareness. And Alicia, jump in at any time. I know that, the beauty of us working together, guys, is that we have different ways of seeing the world, right? This is not just a one-way end all be all. There's no right or wrong here. So we could all be standing in the exact same spot and have
experience
things,
everything different.
Exactly. So it says our 5 physical senses bring us directly into the present moment, and this is the most important place to be. So by learning how to use our full body awareness, we can acknowledge what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And it's going to give us a broader sense of what's really going on around us. This is what sets the stage for all the possibilities to come. And now you can really let your story unfold organically. So remind yourself you're creative, and then just dive into the moment using your 5 senses, okay? The second, and I'm just gonna go off the numbers I see here so I don't confuse myself. There's actually 10 tips in this ebook, guys. Number 1 that comes before it is just that reminder of your mission to always be creative. So the second tip here is to see the direction of light. And when we did this photo tip live, we added to it by saying, it's not just the direction of light, where it's coming from, but ask yourself, how powerful is that light? Is it really bright? Is it dull? Is it shade? Are you in a dark room? light is everything the camera. Those of you who have been in our beginner classes, you know the camera, no matter what kind you have, it only sees light. So as soon as we know our why, we have to understand how the camera sees that why, that thing that we're looking at. And then we can identify where that light's coming from and how powerful it is. The third tip we have here is to discover your hero. And I love this term because we could always say, hey, pick your subject or find a focal point, but it's so much more than that. Like Alicia says, we don't always know what our story is going to be. We might have this idea or this intention at the beginning, but the beauty of being in the moment is letting it change, adapting to what's happening organically. And a lot of times your focal point can change. So when we use the word discover, we're constantly letting that unfolding happen. And, this moment here, I had no idea there would be local kids playing on the beach while I was watching the sunset. And they actually added to my story. So discover your hero. Allow yourself to change the possibility of who you're focused on in your story to make it better. I won't read through each of these definitions, guys, but you have them here. And like I said, keep these tips with you on your phone so you can really reach back to them anytime you need to. Number 4, so after we see that light, we kind of have that hero we want to focus on. Now we can start to pay attention to the color, right? Catch the color. And this is a great shot by Alicia. You know what I just noticed are those little wings of the bug he's probably over there.
Oh yeah, when I saw that, I was like, how cool. Like I even caught that.
Yeah. Guys, catch the color isn't just about finding the brightest part of your scene. It's about using the color to pull in emotions and feelings. So if you, and I'll bring this up now too, guys. We'll make sure this goes into the links in our chat box. But these, when we did these live over the last month, you can now rewatch those videos on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check that out, Alicia. If you have a minute and you want to go pull that up and add that in, feel free. I can add it too. And I'm reminded of each of these live videos as I review this with you guys here on this live video, because so much comes up in those 30 to 40 minutes that we're talking about each one of these. So much great value. And one of the things we emphasized with Catch the Color is that you can use your midground, foreground, midground, and background to play off each other when it comes to color. So notice how we've got that green in the bird, but we also have the green in the background. And yet, what is that striking color that pulls them, pulls this picture together is that bright red, which is what we call a complementary color. So that is an opposite color to that greenish blue. So this is a great video to watch again on our YouTube channel because we actually brought up a couple really cool diagrams. One of them is a color wheel that we show you which colors actually represent certain feelings and emotions. And when you see these words on the color, you can't help but imagine a story that goes along with them. So color is really huge when it comes to starting to naturally see how a visual story can be really impactful from behind the lens. So our 5th tip is change your perspective. And I love this shot that Alicia got at Monument Valley. It's one of the most vastly massive, expansive areas your eyes could ever look at and try to comprehend how, I don't even know how to use words to explain how much open space is there. And these massive rocks that she's captured are hundreds and hundreds of feet tall. If there was a car in this scene, it would be a speck of dot. I don't know me my mouse, please?
Sorry, I missed whatever you said. You kind of cut out.
Can you see my mouse on the screen here?
A little bit. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So if there was a car, guys, it would be like smaller than this speck right here if you saw a car in the scene. So
Yeah.
I point that out because this is such an incredible perspective of a place that doesn't look like this at all. So when you go force yourself to change your view of what it is you want to capture, you are bound to find a different version of it, a different story to tell.
You know what's funny? I was just really hot and I wanted to go in the shade. So I went by this tree and kind of filled my frame. And I was just so in awe of these huge plateaus, whatever you want to call those things. And it just, you're right. Like everything was so small when you looked far out there. But it was cool.
It's incredible.
It was cool to kind of go through.
It's a very, very cool place. If you guys, has anyone here ever been out to Moab, Arizona, or this is Monument Valley, which is right on the cusp of Utah, Arizona, kind of runs into the Grand Canyon area as well. And so the Midwest is,
I love
those of
it.
you who are, it's an incredible place to visit, and I've been a couple of times. Alicia and I did an incredible road trip across the country and made many stops in the West. And what makes it so fantastic, if you are one of these photographers who's really challenging yourself to explore the world through your camera for the rest of your life, you will start to research and notice that many, many photographers go to the Wild West of America to capture the world, because not just because of these crazy places to see, but the light is so different out there when you are surrounded by these red rocks and the all this open space. You are forced to see light differently and land differently and your atmosphere differently. So it really does force you to become a better photographer, whether you like it or not, because there's no place like it in the world. And you will see a lot of photos we still share, and I could go there for the rest of my life and I'll never get bored with the Wild West. That's for sure. So as you guys change your perspective, one of the easiest ways to do that is to use what we call is the golden rule of composition, and that is the rule of thirds. And rule of thirds is, here, I'll read this definition to you guys. So we read from left to right, top to bottom. We interpret the world. That's how we create a story. An image can be composed the same way. If you break your frame into like a tic-tac-toe board, 3 squares across and down, the goal is to put your focal point anywhere outside of the center square. Instead, place your subject within the intersecting points of the outer squares. So if you were to think of this like a tic-tac-toe board, that front, and actually both of these, are kind of in that top right-hand corner, pulling you into the frame. So I'll keep emphasizing this, but Rule of Thirds is another great video we put together where we talk about how basically, guys, if you guys understand this one tip, you are going to be forced to see your entire life differently now, because you can't help but realize this is how we see the world anyway. And every movie you ever watch, every magazine you open to an image, any picture you scroll on Instagram, every image you see moving or still, I almost guarantee you, if it's not in perfect symmetry, it's using Rule of Thirds to help balance out the story. So
I can't help but watch movies differently now. It's kind of weird. I'm like, oh God, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And you realize how they created that beauty, even the way like a panning shot works. Notice where your eye goes when you are the viewer of an image. And you can think of yourself as a viewer of an image, even when you're looking through that viewfinder and creating the image, you are still the viewer, the interpreter of the moment. It's up to you to capture it. Rule of thirds probably, it's a very easy tactic to draw the viewer in, and push yourself to balance your scene, the elements that matter. So if rule of thirds is about getting out of perfect balance, the next tip we're giving you is the opposite, and that is complete symmetry. So symmetry is about creating that mirrored effect, this harmony and balance, and it's almost never a perfect balance, which is the challenge of symmetry, is looking for that balance and forcing yourself to move into a new area, a new perspective, where you are using the right angle of your camera, the right angle of your body, and the right angle of your elements in your scene to create some sort of perfect balance here. This is not always natural for us to see this way. So these tips, guys, that we're sharing with you and reviewing, remember, they compound on each other. So we can't think about symmetry and creating a great shot without first thinking about changing perspective or looking at the direction or power of the light, right? So as these tips start to come naturally for you from behind the lens, you might say, oh, that flower has beautiful symmetry. But before you capture it, you're going to think about the light, your focal point, right? The colors. So remember to use these tips one right after the other and watch how they help build that great photo for you. Okay. I think this was one of Alicia's favorites. You want to share this one, Alicia?
Yeah. So filling your frame. You can actually see how Danielle filled her frame in this scene. She backed up. I don't know where you were standing, but you literally zoomed in to see this beautiful landscape and having the trees kind of fill that frame to where you're looking through and seeing that sailboat. But there's so much depth in this photo. It's just so beautiful. So filling your frame can do that. You know, it creates that depth of field. And I'm sure that's what the thing says too once you read it.
Yes, we'll pull that up in a second. Yeah, fill your frame, guys, is about cutting out the edges, right? So I'm not shooting the full trees or the full mountains. I'm filling my frame with this to pull you into a more intimate area. So here, go ahead, you can read that one.
Yeah, so the closer you physically get, the bigger your subjects will look. It literally means to fill your viewfinder with only what matters to your story. This creates more of an intimate kind of feeling and a mysterious feeling behind it.
Yeah.
By pulling your frame closer and cutting off the edges, you can give the viewer this sense that they are right there inside of that image. That same image that I shot of Monument Valley is the same type of filling your frame as well. You kind of get the same feel there. You kind of know where you are. You'd be like hiding like me in a bush, you know, under a tree, you know, trying to get this shot. So
exactly,
closer, and people know what those edges are. Oh.
Yeah, it's funny because they kind of do the opposite using the same tip. This literally makes me feel like I'm crouched in and huddling with you in a, you know, surrounded by. Yeah. This tree was probably huge, but to me it feels small and intimate, right? Like I'm right up sitting on this log. And then when I look at this shot, I feel like I'm falling off the edge of a cliff. Like where do I put my feet? I'm so on the edge of the world. I don't know where my grounding is, right? So it's this loftiness feeling because I'm above the sailboat, and it was a very, very cool hilly field. You know, and this was one of those moments that I got to be honest with you guys. I didn't know there was a freaking sailboat there. I just happened to stand there.
Right in the frame.
Yeah, I just happened to stand there long enough to go, oh my God, there's a sailboat coming. Where can I position myself so that the sailboat and the mountains, and look at this hill, and notice how the hill kind of creates this mimicking effect, the V shape that the mountain creates.
Even the clouds, I was like, woo.
Yeah. So cool. Oh my gosh.
That's Switzerland, you said? Switzerland?
Yes, this is Lake Lucerne in Switzerland. Any of you who ever get a chance to go, like drive through the mountains because a fairy tale land. When you see these, it's a weird mix of this modern, incredible tunnel systems, and then you come out and it's bright blue skies and turquoise lakes and massive mountains, and it's incredible. I can't describe it. It's so crazy looking. So hopefully my pictures do it justice.
Absolutely.
Here's another one, great area from out west. This is the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. This is actually Horseshoe Bend. So when we're thinking about this tip, guys, looking for lines, patterns, and textures is actually fairly easy to do. The reason this comes down further on the list is because the challenge here is using these things in these elements in your scene to your advantage. So here's my point. I can almost promise you every single time you pick up the camera, you are going to see leading lines, repetitive patterns, and or texture, the details, and you're going to be able to identify those things and go, yep, that's a part of my story. Because they're in everything, okay? Mm-hmm. You can find it everywhere you look. So balancing it is the hard part, right? Like how do I emphasize, this line of the Colorado River? I couldn't get it fully in my frame because I was so close to the edge, but if I had backed up, it was too low. I wouldn't have been able to see it at all. I would have had this rock in front of me. So I saw the river. I wanted to shoot it, but I'm like, wait a minute, there's this line. I love the texture. How do I balance these elements out to pull you into that frame?
Mm-hmm.
You remember this moment, Alicia?
Oh, I dream of sitting there again, watching the sunrise.
I know.
Such a good experience. I don't even know if you can actually do it anymore.
Well, I know right now things are challenging with travel, but Horseshoe Bend is, it's under construction, the pathways that lead up to it. So they are still letting people go right now, or at least they were before the pandemic. But you just have to reserve ahead of time, and they bring you in on a bus from a different location. So it definitely is not like it was for us, where you just park at a trailhead and start running, and all of a sudden we
like parked on the side of the road and just kind of, I don't know, found our way to it. It was like a 2-mile walk too, wasn't it? I feel like
it was a bit of a walk, but we also went early in the morning to watch the sunrise there. So I remember it being dark and just so strange.
Yeah, we got ourselves into some weird stuff. Very cool. It turned out to like some of the most interesting and spontaneous things. You just got to let go and just go with it. And we found our way and our story through those moments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's another one of those moments at the end of my trip. Tip number 10, guys, and really in our video series we've been doing, this was number 11, is to see silhouettes and shadows. And I added another one in there in our video on Wednesday, which was reflections. So all three of these things, the reason we save them to almost the last of our tips is because of one thing only. Our eyes don't naturally notice silhouettes, shadows, or reflections because our eyes are drawn to the thing that created them. So your eyes are drawn to the object in the silhouette that you can't quite make out, or it's drawn to the tree that's casting the shadow, right? It's drawn to the thing that's in the light, not the shadow of that thing. So I have had a blast over the last few years trying to force myself to underexpose photos, to use these things, silhouettes and shadows and reflections, to help tell my story. And it's totally changed the way I see things. And some of my work has just really gotten a lot more, it pops more than I ever thought it would when I was first standing there looking at it. Because remember, when I'm standing there, I don't see these shadows like this, right? My eyes want to in front of me. So it's up to us to really hone in on how that camera controls that light. And I have to think to myself, okay, if I want to create this shadowed look, I've got to underexpose this shot. And then I end up seeing something in the back of my camera that is nothing the way I saw it in person. So it really does take it to a whole nother level. I love it. So there's a great description there for that one. So who's ready? Who's ready? I'm going to bring myself back up first. Who is ready? Did everyone enjoy that? Getting a good review, especially those of you who, might not have been with us through the whole 12 weeks. Who is ready, guys, for this 12th tip? Who's ready? You ready? I know. I see you all in there typing. Ready, ready, ready. Okay, good. So tip number 12, guys, is to combine as many of these tips as you can into one shot. So the more of these tips you can bring into a single image, the more you are going to create an interesting story instantly. As you practice, we encourage you to remember one thing: live, shoot, and create in wonder, right? Let yourself be curious, and you will start to see these tips unfold. You'll let your imagination run wild. You're going to start to see life through a new lens. And all these tips we've been sharing, I'll give you this top list here, they're all going to come up for you naturally. So if you can simply remember just 1, 2, or 3 of these and try to really implement them in every shot you take, watch yourself, your skills skyrocket like overnight. Seriously, guys. This has helped me so much more than just knowing the buttons on my camera. They both go hand in hand. You definitely want to give yourself the time to go out and practice and get familiar with that camera. But what's equally as important, if not more important, is giving yourself the chance to be in the moment and use as many of these tips as you can. And we've told you this before, but we don't just take a shot and move on. Usually every great shot you see, there's 50 pictures before it that led us to that perfect moment. So what we're going to do right now is share with you some of our, let me pull it up, some shots. And Alicia, I'm going to ask questions. So I want you to field, I wanted to see how this looks. I'm going to bring my screen up full screen so everyone can see the pictures as big as possible. But when you see a shot, Alicia, that brings in more than one tip, stop me, right? Like, hey, that picture there. Or you guys who are listening in live, I want you to look for a picture. I want you to start identifying, okay? We're just going to go through this our Instagram feed, and I want you to start going, oh, that picture of the flowers, oh, the picture of the building, oh, this picture. Point out a picture so we can analyze it. I want to see how many tips we can get into one photo. You ready? You guys ready? We're going to look at this. We're going to really start analyzing our pictures and realize we have multiple tips in every picture. So I know some of these you've seen before, and I'm going to start with this one. Okay, so how many, this is a grill, a bar and grill, a really cool outdoor beach vibey bar and grill. I shot their latest menu items for and new wine that they're offering. So what tips do you see immediately when you see this picture? Alicia, if you could see any, you tell me. Let's get this started and see what everyone sees.
Mm-hmm. I would say rule of thirds right off the bat.
Absolutely. We have rule of thirds in there.
In the portrait way, not the landscape way.
Yeah, so good point, guys. Remember that you can use these tips, portrait or landscape.
I would say we got the leading lines on the table and the backs of the chairs, so it kind of leads you around the photo.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but those lines pull you into, like, where does your eye go first? Mine goes to the word relax and then the food right around it. It's like, hey, come chill with us. I
mean, I don't know if that's a fire pit, but it's pretty bright, so automatically you kind of want to go there first. But at the same time, my eyes directly went to the bottle. So even the lines on the bottle, so reflection, Laura said, I mean,
Yep.
the reflection of whatever is reflecting on the bottle, that kind of pulled me in too.
Yep. And then how about color?
Yeah.
Look at our balance of warms and cold colors, and actually look at the repetition of those colors. So you've got, the blue and the sparkles in the background, the blue in the cup, or in the bottle. But then you have this opposite, this contrasting color, which is the warm fire and the warm tones of those lights. So color, and even before that, you mentioned the fire. That's light itself, right? So the direction of light is kind of blasting through those wine glasses and coming from over top. It's not really coming from in front of our frame there.
Right. And it's going through the wine glasses, which is
exactly.
It all out. Yeah, that's a cool one.
Do you guys see that? Do you guys see how that's we've got multiple things in there. Let's see if we can bring up another one. How about this guy? This guy, this is my father has a company called Eastern Shore Experience, and he is a falconer. So this is actually his hunting partner. Her name is Nova, and she's a red-tailed hawk. So I had the joy of shooting him with her a few months back over the holiday season, and she's just a ridiculously incredible animal. She's amazing to be around. But this first shot, we could tell a whole photo story, a series. But let's just look at this first photo of her, and thinking of these visual storytelling tips. The first one that comes to mind for me is, and maybe this might not have been a specific tip, but I'll use number 2, which is direction of light. I immediately see the direction she's looking and how it kind of pulls you into her face because of that light hitting her eyeball. So that's really the first thing that comes to mind for me, is like, she's looking into this light, and that light is catching her eyes. And that's what made me capture this shot in the first place, was like, look how the sun is just bursting on her face. Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
I also see texture. Do you guys see the repetition of patterns in her feathers? And the texture, you feel that sharpness of her feathers. That's important when we think about creating a really sharp, focused image. So textures there. What else do we have? We still have rule of thirds, right? I'm in the top left corner of my frame instead of the bottom left.
I can't stop looking at the comments right now. The girl, or Juan Bavo, said, I need those eyebrows.
I don't even remember. Oh, yeah.
That is so funny. Yeah, who wouldn't want those? They're perfect.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Color, guys, you can see those warm tones again in the color of the light and in his colors. So we've combined a lot of different, and you technically also have a leading line here because we've kept that shape of his body.
Even the way the falcon's looking is a leading,
exactly.
Leading line.
This whole shape of him, and it's creating that Fibonacci spiral, that rule of thirds spiral, and even other ones, right, guys? So here we've got the same thing. We've got texture, we've got kind of rule of thirds, but I wanted to frame these in square, so that could be a challenge with rule of thirds. We're definitely more focused, centered here, but we have this leading line of my dad's arm there, pulling you into the frame. So, Alicia, I'll let you pick the next one, see if one comes up.
Okay.
See, these were
the Lake Eola, that little magnifying glass. That's fun.
Oh, yeah. This one's cool. This a photo by one of our students. Her name is Claudia. And I'll tell you more about this in a minute, guys, but we do a sunset and photography tour once a month. We'll be doing it mid-June next. And so she came to our night photography tour, and we bring our tripods, and we just have a blast on manual mode down at Lake Eola here in Orlando. And towards the end of the whole shoot, she opens up her camera bag and pulls out, this is called a lens ball. If anyone wants to get one, they are incredibly fun tools that really, they force you to be really creative when you're playing with your camera. But funny enough, this photo is actually upside down. So she's actually holding it here. Can you see me still, Alicia?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's actually holding it like this. The ball's like sitting on her, and we flipped it upside down. So a lens ball, they have stands, but because we were using the tripod and we wanted to lift up the view and get the water in her shot, she had to hold it. And it is a perfectly round sphere that you can see through, and it captures the reflection of everything around it. So because it's round, it flips things upside down, and we captured the fountain at Lake Eola. So this was
very neat. I see a lot of color in it.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Symmetry.
Yeah. Symmetry, definitely. Even how the background is the green from the fountain, like the background line in the depths is kind of cool. Yeah.
So you said perspective. That's a perfect example. Claudia literally in the moment had been shooting the fountain with her regular lens on her camera. And guys, to help you understand and interpret this photo, the red in the background at the top of the photo behind her hand is actually the red of the base of the real fountain. So this green down here that's blurred out is actually the reflection of the green in the water. And you can see these white dollops of light are in the water. And these yellow lights, this one over up by her fingertip, is up here. It's probably from one of those buildings in the background, or maybe the other part of the fountain. So this is absolutely a moment as a photographer where Claudia said, I've already shot this gorgeous fountain 10 times over. What is a new perspective, a new version, a new story I can tell? Mm-hmm. And she whipped out this lens ball, and she had to have taken, she was very frustrated when I walked over to her. Let's just put it that way. So she had tried a lot of different things before we were able to get that light bulb moment, if you will, right? And go, oh, this is the shot. And then we worked on it and tweaked it. And then I helped her balance her hand so it would be straight up and down. And this took some work, but it was well worth it. It's a very creative way to play photography, guys. Do not think that just because we're professional storytellers, professional photographers, go out and take regular professional pictures. Don't think that that means you can't use these tips to just, go crazy with this, right? Go shoot through a wine glass. Go get a lens ball. Go, Alicia and I were shooting.
I do a lot of weddings, and we now pick up those wine glasses or pick up things that you can actually shoot through in order to get a very different perspective and light and reflections and stuff. So get creative with it. There's no right or wrong. The more creative you get, the more cool, it could look. So.
Yeah. And I say this time and time again, but our obsession, our fuel that keeps us going with this is knowing that this literally feels magical to us when we can pick up the camera and go, wow, let's try something new. Let's play with this and look at this from a new perspective. And the challenge is just getting out of our heads to, be a kid again, to go, tell yourself it doesn't matter if you think it's right or wrong, just try it anyway and have fun. Mm-hmm. So she definitely, after a bit of frustration, we definitely had some fun with this. You've got symmetry, you've got great color here. There's a lot of awesome elements in the different than any other picture we really share, where we can pull all these into play. Let's see another one. Oh, this is a fun one. I actually have another one. Yeah, let's look at this one. So, what do you guys see? Is anyone sharing in the comments? I'm not able. Oh, good, they are. Okay, so
a little bit.
Alicia and I aren't going to talk for a minute. We're going to try anyway. What do you all see? Those of you who are here with us live, type into the chat box. What tips do you see immediately when you look at this photo? And Alicia, if you see them coming up, say them out loud.
Got some typers.
What's that?
So we got people typing in.
Okay, good. You see them typing.
Color and texture. That's
color and texture. Absolutely, guys. And texture, that word should come up for you as soon as you want to stick your hand in and feel it, right? You're like, look at the soft bee fuzz. Look at the texture of the inside of that sunflower. Did you say color? Was that another one that came up?
Yeah, color and texture from Laura, light and color from Donna, color, texture, full frame, Deanna.
I love it.
Yeah, I also see hero, discovering the hero here.
110%. I didn't even think of that one. Guys, we were shooting the sunflowers, okay? We knew the bees were there, but the bee was not my first focal point, right? I had to be in the moment and then and I have to take that back. This isn't my shot. This was a private lesson we did with University of Florida has a agricultural and sciences center here in Orlando, and we did a big workshop with a few of their marketing team members because they have these gorgeous gardens and they have great cameras, but they just didn't know how to capture their gardens. So I kind of set this shot up. I went looking for these sunflowers to give them ideas to practice shooting, but we did not know this bee would be here. And Chris, the student who took this shot, she even says it right here. I really enjoyed my time behind the lens, although setup before shot is gone is still challenging. Yeah, so we were here for a few minutes discovering the hero of this bee. When your hero ends up being wildlife or some object you can't really control, you really do have to be patient with yourself and refocus a lot and, reframe and, take a lot of photos to get it. And she finally got it. So I'm glad you brought that one up, Alicia. Discovering your hero is a big one that sometimes we forget. I also see leading lines. Mm-hmm. So I know textures and lines are all in one tip, but look how those flower petals just pull you right into that bee. Mm-hmm. Color, we have those opposite colors. We have rule of thirds. That Fibonacci spiral is so obvious in this photo. So what else? I feel like I'm missing one of the main ones. Hold on, let me pull up this. What else do we have in this shot? I love, who brought up fill your frame? I love that one. This was definitely a notice with all five senses. So, you can
definitely.
The buzzing of the bees was something I had to be more aware of to really pay attention to how we were going to shoot them. The breeze, it was windy, so I actually had to hold this sunflower in place for her. So lots and lots of great tips in these shots. I want to just do one more really quickly, and it's this one, because this is the one we have actually in the ebook, guys, that represents this. I'll show it to you. Oh, actually, it's not. We changed it. So I'll bring up this one just to show you. So we have reflections. We have the direction of light. My hero was the pier until that sun came up and started showing itself, right? Mm-hmm. And then it ended up actually in this shot being the wave. I ended up changing my shutter speed. It was all about that wave for the hero. So we have leading lines. We have rule of thirds. We have color, direction of sight, reflections. We have so many And one, a great example of using symmetry and rule of thirds in the same photo, guys. Do you see how that's possible? So we have this balance with the trees and the symmetry and the sun right in the middle, but we also have a bigger tree on the right that creates this rule of thirds balance. You've got shadows in the foreground, leading lines. All those great tips are in this shot as well. So I hope this tip, specifically this tip, really hits home for you guys. I think it's something that we've probably, a lot of us have already realized as we've been doing more and more of these online free classes that, like Alicia said at the beginning, you know, you start to come.
It's impossible to like just do them. Like you can't. It just naturally happens that you just have to be aware of all the other things happening. And sometimes you're not until you actually load it in your computer and be like, oh, wow. You know, like there's so many tips in this one shot I took.
And you guys know that, you know, in hindsight or in that immediate, let me just be open to it and see what happens. It's after the fact sometimes, like you said, whether it's on your computer later or after you look down and check out that shot, you go, oh, wait, I was attracted to the flowers. And then I moved and created a new perspective and saw the color in the background and changed my focal point to rule of thirds. You're going to just start naturally moving through these motions as a photographer. And you're going to go, what? Look, I put in 10 different tips in one frame, you know? So I hope you guys have enjoyed these awesome, awesome tips. This is not the end. I want to, you know, finish out this wonderful week. First, I want to say this. I want everyone, we're going to do this early. We started this class a month ago, and we started it on my birthday, April 27th. And so next week, we are ending it all. It is Alicia's birthday. So I want everybody to wish Alicia a early happy birthday right now.
Thank you. I celebrated it by jumping out of a plane in Florida the day before I left.
She went skydiving the day before she left. You got to check out her Instagram.
Thank you, everybody.
So I'm going to share with you guys a couple of things we've got going on because this is not the end. And so next week we are going to take the week off. That's why I say we got to say happy birthday to her now. Starting June, the first week in June, we are going to be putting together weekly events for you guys. And we have 2 different events we're bringing up, not including our regular classes, okay? So I just want to make sure I share them all correctly. First and foremost.
I'm so excited to like continue.
Me too, because this feels right. It feels good. You know, it feels like I said, this is a never-ending conversation. Good, Laura's loving it.
Oh, babe, you're gonna hurt yourself. I'm sorry, my dogs are freaking out. Hold on.
That's okay.
Oh, are you okay? You okay?
We'll pause her. Can I pause her? Is she okay?
Yeah, one of the dogs just like did like one of the gliding across the kitchen floors. Oh my god, I'm freaking out.
You need a minute, because you can take a minute. It's totally
fine.
Okay.
I think he like slid across and then like hit the dining room table.
I can only imagine it. By the way, my dog is crazy.
Are you okay? He's 90 pounds. He's a 90 pound. All right, let's close this door so I can finish this. Come here, Eddie. Come. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna keep going. So we are, like we said, this is not the end. And starting the first week in June, we're gonna bring you 2 big events. So the first one is going to be Wednesday Wisdom, we're gonna call it, guys. And Alicia, will you put up our Instagram account so they can join us for that? So starting June 3rd, Wednesday, you can go to Instagram.com/livewonderful_. That's our handle. We're going to be going live again on Instagram. We've been conversation. So we're now going to combine them, okay? Every Wednesday, we're going to go live at noon and bring up one quote, one dose of inspiration on what it really means to live wonderful and be a moment, whether it's behind the lens or just enjoying life, okay? So Wednesdays at noon, that's where you're going to find us. Come hang out with us on Instagram and chime in on that conversation. And then every Friday, starting June 5th, we're going to have our free photo tip Fridays, okay? So we're going to basically continue what we've started here, guys, okay? We have tons and tons of tips. Yesterday, we started compiling, well, we added to things we'd already compiled. We have over 100 tips to share with you guys. So every Friday, we're going to come to you right here, and you can find those links to sign up at livewonderful.clickmeeting.com. That's where our free classes are always going to be. I'll tell you right now, my goal is that if you have been joining us already, I am going to try to make sure you get an invite to it so you don't have to remember to go sign up. I'm just going to automatically send you an invite. You just got to fill in name and email and you'll be in, okay? So that'll be weekly on Fridays. And our goal is that each week and each month, you're going to be able to look back on these tips. Great, Don. I'm glad you're happy about that. You're going to be able to look back on these tips and hopefully see that your photography has improved month after month, okay? So I hope it's already improved a lot with these last few months of us sharing. But we want to be able to give you guys a space to always have that inspiration coming. I know for us, it's not easy to just pull it out of your head. So we're working really hard to make sure we can always bring that to you guys. Wednesdays at noon on Instagram, Fridays at noon right here on our webinar.
In our heads that we want to share with you all. We want to get it out.
Alicia was reading one of my documents I wrote about 4 years ago when I first started teaching visual storytelling. It's 13 pages long. And she's like, wow, you have a lot of information in your head.
Definitely more than mine. Or if I have it, I just don't spit it out until
mine has to come out. This is absolutely the place to get it out. We write as much as we can, but I know we've all really been enjoying these live videos. So we are going to keep them coming.
That's great. I'm glad you learned so much.
I want to end this 12 weeks with you guys by giving you guys a little coupon code for any of our in-person or online classes coming up. And I want to share with you the links on where to find them. Our full classes, okay, our paid classes, guys, you're going to find those at livewonderful.com/tours, or just go to livewonderful.com and you'll see the link there on the home page. But I want you guys to sign up through there for our paid classes because you can put in this discount code and get 15% off everything and anything on your next order. So it's free 15, okay? All caps or all, it doesn't matter each way. But put that in on your order, and I'll just end and share with you guys what we do have coming up here at Live Wonderful. There are a lot of great things happening. This is that page we were talking about, our workshop and tours page. So what I've done is I've actually loaded a live current schedule of events. This is our Google Calendar. So anytime we have changes or additions, you're gonna see them right here on the top of the page. And then if you scroll a little further, you will have the individual links to learn more about each of these classes. I've added the price in at the top here so you can check those out. We are teaching our beginner DSLR online class next Wednesday at 10 a.m. It's $50. It's a 2 to 3 hour class. If you haven't done the beginner class, that's a great place to start. We're going to be in person finally again, June 6th. We've already got a few people signed up, so you can join us here in the studio. And those of you who have already done our beginner class, don't forget that when you do our in-person beginner group class, you get one free retake of that class. So the morning class is $125. If you join us all day, it's $200. But you automatically get a free retake of that class. So if you haven't taken advantage of that and you want to, you can join us on June 6th for a refresher in person. Maybe give me a hug. I would like that.
Yeah.
Back row photography on June 13th. We have a special guest coming in for that. We're going to be doing our sunset and night tour. That is our favorite tour down at Lake Eola on June 13th in the evening. June 20th is Mead Gardens. We will be doing, who's here with us live, who missed the Lightroom workshop and still wants to learn Lightroom? Anybody here with us now who is really interested in Lightroom? We put a new date up for the online class, so you can find that there. I think it is June 18th. So check that out if you're interested in learning how to do photo editing. And lots of other great workshops. Okay, guys, we also do our private lessons online and in the studio. And we do brand photography and storytelling workshops as well. Those of you starting a business, ask me more about that. Those are a lot of fun and great for your online marketing skills. So
and as we continue, I mean, we're going to be adding a lot more cool workshops and classes as well. So stay tuned with us no matter what.
Yes, we're planning Boston right now, so we can go up to the New England area and see the beauty that's near Alicia. Come July, actually, I'll let you guys know now. It's not on the site yet, but the second weekend in July, we're going to be in Maryland doing a really amazing nature tour with my dad and the hawk, but also all across the eastern shore of Maryland. We're doing 3 different tours there. That's July 11th and 12th. Hopefully August is going to be the month that we are in South Florida. So those of you who are joining us from the Miami and Fort Lauderdale area, I know you were probably looking forward to what we had planned at the beginning of this year. We had to cancel uncontrollable circumstances, but that will be happening again. Our goal is August. That is in the works. Logistics, we're planning it. It'll either be in Fort Lauderdale or Miami. We are looking for that location. I knew Lucille would appreciate that. Lucille, if you know anyone who's interested, let us know, because this year, guys, my word for this year was connection. And so, that hasn't changed, though our lives have very much changed this year. I am all about building this connection. You all have helped us do that online, but we are all about expanding these classes and, our Live Wonderful mission. So we are coming to you online and in person to as many places as we can. And we love this. We are so grateful for you guys. Thank you for joining us for the last 12 classes, 4 weeks straight.
Yes, thank you so much.
Take a break. We'll see you on Instagram and here again on Friday, the 5th, Friday, June 5th for the next round. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Enjoy the sun and sun.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.